Emma Carter pulled her thin coat tighter against the biting wind as she walked home after her shift at Sunny's Cafe. The Los Angeles night was unkindly cold, and the rain fell in relentless sheets, soaking through her shoes. Yet Emma's heart felt warm, even in the dreary weather. Clutched in her arms was a bag filled with leftover food from the cafe, her nightly ritual. She didn't see it as charity, but as an obligation to help those who had it harder than she did. As she turned the corner, her eyes caught sight of a boy, no older than 9 or 10, huddled under the bus stop bench. His clothes were soaked, and he trembled violently, his knees pulled to his chest in a futile attempt to stay warm. Emma's heart broke instantly. She approached him gently, crouching down so as not to startle him. "Hey there, sweetheart," she said softly, her voice soothing. "Are you okay? Where's your family?" The boy looked up, his eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. He didn't speak, but Emma noticed how pale his lips were and how his small hands shivered uncontrollably. Without hesitation, she extended her hand. "Come with me. I work at a cafe just down the street. Let's get you warm and fed, okay?" The boy hesitated, but eventually nodded, his desperation overriding his fear. Emma guided him to Sunny's Cafe, where the familiar scent of coffee and baked goods filled the air. The place was closed for the night, but Emma still had the keys. She led him to a booth near the radiator, grabbing a clean towel from the kitchen to wrap around his shoulders. Minutes later, she placed a steaming bowl of tomato soup in front of him, along with a grilled cheese sandwich. The boy ate ravenously, and Emma watched with a mix of relief and sorrow. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "Liam," he mumbled between bites. "Liam, where's your family? Do you have anyone I can call for you?" He shook his head, tears brimming in his eyes. "My mom? She left. I don't know where to go." Emma swallowed the lump in her throat. She didn't have much, but she knew she couldn't leave this boy out on the streets. "You can rest here tonight," she said firmly, making a mental note to call social services in the morning. Unbeknownst to Emma, a sleek black car had pulled up to the curb just outside the cafe. Alexander Reed, a billionaire with a reputation for being calculated and aloof, had been driving through the neighborhood when he spotted her leading the boy into the cafe. Curious, he'd parked and watched the scene unfold from the window. As he watched Emma care for the boy, a rare emotion stirred within him. Her selflessness and warmth struck a chord. Without thinking, he scribbled down the name of the cafe and made a mental note to return. The next morning, Emma woke Liam with a gentle shake, her heart aching at how vulnerable he looked. After ensuring he was fed again, she called the local child welfare hotline, staying by Liam's side until the social worker arrived. Watching him leave, clutching the small blanket she'd given him, Emma whispered a silent prayer for his safety. Life went on as usual, but the encounter with Liam lingered in Emma's mind. She often wondered if he'd be okay, if someone would show him the kindness and care he deserved. Meanwhile, Alexander couldn't get the image of Emma out of his mind. For days, her compassion replayed in his thoughts. He'd always prided himself on his ability to stay detached from emotions, focusing solely on the ruthless world of business. Yet this young woman had unknowingly pierced through his guarded exterior. One evening, he found himself scrolling through the listings for Sunny's Cafe. He chuckled at his own uncharacteristic behavior, but decided he had to know more about her. The following day, Alexander donned a casual outfit, jeans, a plain hoodie, and a baseball cap, and stepped into the cafe. The bell above the door jingled as he entered, and his sharp eyes immediately landed on Emma. She was behind the counter, balancing a tray of coffee mugs and plates with an effortless grace. Her face was tired but still radiant with warmth as she greeted every customer with genuine care. Alexander took a seat in a corner booth, watching her closely. "Welcome to Sunny's. I'll be right with you," Emma called out as she noticed him. When she came over to take his order, her smile was as bright as the California sun. "What can I get for you today?" "Just a coffee, black," he said, his voice calm and measured. As Emma served him, she noticed his curious gaze but brushed it off. She was used to all kinds of customers, and this one didn't seem any different. Just another face passing through her modest cafe. But Alexander observed everything. He noted how she remembered each customer's order without needing to write it down, how she helped an elderly woman carry her food to the table, and how she offered extra napkins to a mother with two rowdy toddlers. Her kindness wasn't performative, it was genuine, woven into every interaction. When Alexander finished his coffee, he discreetly left an envelope under the plate. As Emma cleared the table, her fingers brushed against it. Opening it curiously, she gasped at the sight of several crisp $100 bills and a simple note, "Thank you for your kindness." Rushing outside, she scanned the street for the mysterious diner, but he was already gone. Clutching the envelope to her chest, she stood there for a moment, the wind tangling her hair, wondering who he was and why he'd done this. Little did she know, her life was about to take a turn she never imagined. Emma couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious stranger. She sat in the back room of Sonny's cafe after her shift, staring at the envelope he had left. The bills inside totaled $1,000, a fortune to someone like her. She couldn't understand why anyone would leave such a generous tip for a simple cup of coffee. Her coworker, Claire, noticed her distracted demeanor and nudged her. "You've been staring at that envelope for 15 minutes. What's going on?" Emma hesitated, but then handed the note to Claire. "A customer left this today. I didn't even get his name." Claire's jaw dropped. $1,000? Emma, this isn't a tip. It's a miracle. Who was he? Some kind of secret millionaire? Emma shook her head, her brows furrowed. "He didn't act like one. Just a quiet guy in a hoodie. I don't know why he'd do this." The conversation left Emma with more questions than answers. She wanted to be grateful, but a part of her felt uneasy accepting money from someone she didn't know. The memory of the man's piercing gaze lingered. There was something about him, something deliberate in his actions. The following days at the cafe were uneventful, but Emma found herself scanning the door every time the bell jingled, half hoping and half dreading that the stranger would return. She couldn't explain why, but she felt certain there was more to the story. Meanwhile, Alexander Reed couldn't shake the memory of Emma. Watching her from the corner booth had confirmed what he already suspected. Her kindness wasn't just an isolated act, it was her essence. Her selflessness had planted a seed of curiosity and admiration in him, something he hadn't felt in years. Back at his penthouse office, Alexander sat in front of his massive desk, ignoring the contracts and reports his assistants had stacked for him. He leaned back in his chair, staring out at the city skyline. "She's different," he muttered to himself. His closest confidant and driver, Thomas, entered the room, carrying a fresh cup of coffee. "Talking to yourself again, Mr. Reed?" Alexander smirked. "Not exactly. There's someone I want to help, but I don't know how much is too much." Thomas raised an eyebrow. "That's not like you, sir. You're usually decisive." "This is different," Alexander admitted, tapping a pen against the desk. "She's not like anyone I've met. I don't want to overwhelm her, but I want to see what she can do if given a chance." Thomas set the coffee down and smiled knowingly. "Sometimes, the best thing you can do is let people surprise you." Alexander nodded. His plan was forming. A week later, Emma was wiping down the counters at Sonny's cafe when the bell above the door rang. She turned, her heart skipping a beat. There he was, the man in the hoodie, his striking eyes instantly recognizable. "Welcome back," she said, trying to sound casual despite her curiosity. He smiled faintly and took the same corner booth as before. This time, he ordered a coffee and a slice of pie. Emma noticed how he observed the cafe, his gaze lingering on the small details, the photos on the walls, the chipped edge of the counter, the scuff marks on the floor. When she brought his order, she couldn't hold back her questions any longer. "I hope I'm not being rude, but why did you leave that envelope last time?" It was far too generous. He leaned back slightly, his expression thoughtful. "You don't think you deserve generosity?" The question caught her off guard. "It's not that. I don't understand why someone would do that for me." He studied her for a moment before answering. "I saw what you did for that boy the other night. You didn't hesitate to help someone in need. That kind of kindness is rare. It should be rewarded." Emma blushed, unsure how to respond. "I wasn't looking for a reward. I just did what anyone would do." His gaze softened. Not everyone would. They fell into a comfortable silence as Emma busied herself with other customers. When she returned to clear his table, he handed her a folded note. "Read it later," he said with a slight smile before slipping out the door. Emma stood there, staring at the note in her hand. her heart racing. Once her shift ended, she retreated to the quiet back room and unfolded it. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a handwritten message. "Your kindness inspired me. Use this to create the future you deserve, Alex." Emma's hands trembled as she read the words. She couldn't believe her eyes. $50,000? Her thoughts spiraled. This was no ordinary man. He was wealthy, powerful, and clearly had taken an interest in her. But why? The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. Emma debated whether to cash the check, unsure if she could accept such an enormous gift. She couldn't shake the feeling that taking the money would make her indebted to someone she barely knew. On the other hand, the possibilities it presented were life-changing. For the first time, she dared to dream about what she could achieve. The idea of owning her own cafe, a place where everyone was welcome, began to take root. But as the days passed, one question lingered in her mind. Who exactly was Alex, and why had he chosen her? Emma spent the next few nights lying awake, staring at the folded check on her nightstand. The amount was staggering, far more than she had ever dreamed of possessing. Every time she closed her eyes, Alex's words echoed in her mind. "Use this to create the future you deserve." Her heart told her to accept the gift, to use it for something meaningful. But her pride and sense of independence fought back. She had always believed in earning her way through hard work and determination. Could she reconcile that belief with accepting such an extraordinary gift? She took a walk through her neighborhood to clear her thoughts. The streets of Los Angeles were bustling even at night, with food trucks lining the corners and families enjoying the city's energy. But Emma's eyes were drawn to the shadows. The homeless man huddled in a doorway, the woman digging through a trash can for scraps, the young girl clinging to her mother as they sat on a cold bench. Her decision crystallized in that moment. If she accepted Alex's gift, she could use it to help people like them. It wasn't just about her dream anymore. It was about creating a space where people in need could find warmth, food, and dignity. The next morning, Emma walked into the local bank and handed over the check. The teller gave her a wide-eyed look, but processed it without question. As the funds transferred into her account, Emma felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. This was the beginning of something big. She just didn't know how big yet. Over the following weeks, Emma immersed herself in planning her cafe. She scoured listings for a small, affordable space, poring over blueprints and business plans late into the night. Her vision was clear: a cozy cafe where anyone could come for a meal, regardless of their ability to pay. Though she was determined, the challenges were daunting. Permits, equipment, and renovations quickly ate into her budget. She leaned on her closest friend, Claire, for support. "You're crazy," Claire said, sipping her coffee as Emma laid out her plans on the cafe table. "But the good kind of crazy. If anyone can pull this off, it's you." Emma smiled, grateful for Claire's encouragement. But as the pieces began to fall into place, one lingering thought gnawed at her. Why had Alex chosen her for this gift? What was his motive? One evening, after a long day of scouting locations, Emma walked home under the soft glow of streetlights. She was so absorbed in her thoughts that she didn't notice the sleek black car pull up beside her until the tinted window rolled down. "Emma?" a deep voice called. Startled, she turned to see Alex sitting in the back seat. He wasn't wearing his hoodie this time. Instead, he was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, exuding an air of quiet authority. "Alex?" she said, her voice a mix of surprise and uncertainty. He stepped out of the car, and under the streetlight, he seemed larger than life. His expression was calm, but his eyes held a warmth that put her at ease. "Mind if I walk with you?" he asked. Emma hesitated, but nodded, curious about what he had to say. As they strolled, she finally voiced the question that had been burning in her mind. "Who are you, really? And why did you do this for me?" He paused, glancing at her before answering. "My name is Alexander Reed. I'm the CEO of Reed Enterprises." Emma froze mid-step, her mind reeling. Reed Enterprises was one of the largest conglomerates in the country, with investments in everything from technology to real estate. She had seen his face on magazine covers before, but had never made the connection. "Why would someone like you care about someone like me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex's expression softened. "Because I see something in you that I don't see in most people: genuine kindness. The night I saw you help that boy, I realized how rare it is to find someone who gives without expecting anything in return. I wanted to help you because I believe the world needs more people like you." Emma's cheeks flushed, and for a moment she didn't know what to say. Finally, she managed, "Thank you. But this is still overwhelming. I'm just me." "And that's exactly why it matters," Alex replied. Before they parted ways, Alex handed her a small folder. "There's something else I'd like to give you," he said. "Think of it as an investment in your vision." Emma opened the folder later that night and found the deed to a small cafe downtown, along with a note. "Use this space to create something extraordinary. I trust you will." Tears filled her eyes as she realized the depth of Alex's belief in her. It wasn't just the money or the property, it was his faith in her ability to make a difference. For the first time, Emma allowed herself to imagine the future she could build, not just for herself, but for everyone who needed a place to belong. The cafe at 12th and Maple was more than Emma had ever imagined. As she stood outside, staring at the faded sign and dusty windows, her heart swelled with a mix of anticipation and nerves. It wasn't much to look at: peeling paint, creaky wooden floors, and a leaky roof. But Emma saw its potential. Over the following days, she dove headfirst into transforming the space into her dream cafe. Alex, true to his word, remained supportive without being overbearing. He sent over a team of contractors to help with the renovations, though Emma insisted on being hands-on. "I want this place to feel like home," she explained to Alex during one of his visits. "Not just for me, but for everyone who walks through that door." Alex admired her determination, and it will. But don't be afraid to lean on the people who want to help you. Emma smiled, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "It's hard to let go of the habit of doing everything myself." "I've noticed," Alex said with a teasing smirk. They had fallen into a comfortable rhythm over the weeks, their interactions marked by a mutual respect that deepened with each conversation. Alex often stopped by to check on the progress, bringing coffee or snacks for the crew. He watched as Emma poured her heart into every detail, from the handmade wooden tables to the chalkboard menu she insisted on painting herself. One evening, after the contractors had left for the day, Emma and Alex sat on overturned paint cans in the middle of the cafe. The scent of fresh paint filled the air, and the warm glow of the newly installed light fixtures cast a cozy ambiance. "You're really making this place special," Alex said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. Emma glanced around, a small smile playing on her lips. "It's not just me. I couldn't have done any of this without your help." Alex leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "You're giving me far too much credit. I might have opened the door, but you're the one bringing this dream to life." Emma felt a flutter in her chest at his words. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. Not as a waitress struggling to make ends meet, but as someone capable of achieving something extraordinary. As the cafe neared completion, Alex presented Emma with another surprise: a fully stocked pantry, complete with high-quality ingredients, and a coffee machine she would have never been able to afford on her own. Emma stared at the shiny new equipment, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why do you keep doing this for me?" Alex's expression softened. "Because I believe in you, Emma. And because the world needs more places like this. Places where people can find hope." Opening day arrived faster than Emma had anticipated. She stood behind the counter, wearing an apron embroidered with the cafe's name, the Open Door. The name reflected everything she wanted the space to represent: a sanctuary for anyone seeking comfort, whether they could pay for their meal or not. The first customers trickled in slowly, mostly curious neighbors and a few regulars from Sunny's Cafe who had heard about Emma's new venture. She greeted each person with a warm smile, explaining the cafe's pay what you can policy. Some customers left generous donations, while others hesitated, embarrassed to admit they couldn't pay. Emma would gently reassure them, "Your presence here is enough. Enjoy your meal." As the day went on, word spread about the cafe's unique approach. Families, workers, and even a few homeless individuals filled the cozy space, their laughter and conversation creating a lively atmosphere. Alex stopped by in the late afternoon, his presence drawing curious glances from the patrons. Dressed in a casual sweater and jeans, he blended in more than Emma would have expected. "How's it going?" he asked. taking a seat at the counter. Emma beamed. Better than I ever imagined. People are starting to get it, the whole idea of giving without expecting anything in return. Alex nodded, his gaze sweeping across the bustling room. You've created something incredible here, Emma. This place, it's a reflection of you. Emma felt her cheeks flush. She looked down, fiddling with the edge of her apron. It's not just me. You've been part of this too. Their conversation was interrupted by a young boy who approached the counter, clutching a crumpled dollar bill. Can I have one of those muffins, miss? He asked shyly, pointing to the glass display case. Emma crouched down to his level, her smile radiant. Of course. You don't need to pay anything, sweetheart. Here, take 2. The boy's face lit up as he accepted the muffins, running back to his mother, who gave Emma a tearful nod of gratitude. Alex watched the exchange with a mixture of pride and awe. You were made for this, he said softly. As the evening wound down, Emma sat at one of the tables, exhausted but exhilarated. Claire joined her, placing 2 cups of tea on the table. You did it, Claire said, raising her cup in a toast. Emma smiled, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. We did it, and this is just the beginning. From that day forward, the open door became a cornerstone of the community. Emma's dream of creating a space where kindness and generosity thrived had come to life, and Alex, her silent partner, continued to support her from the sidelines. But as their partnership deepened, so did the questions in Emma's heart. Was Alex's interest purely philanthropic, or was there something more? Months passed, and the open door flourished in ways Emma had never dreamed. The cafe became a haven, not only for those in need, but for everyone seeking a sense of belonging. Artists displayed their works on the walls, musicians performed on weekends, and customers from all walks of life found themselves lingering long after finishing their meals. Word of the cafe spread across the city, with articles and social media posts praising Emma's vision. Local news stations covered her story, calling her initiative a revolutionary act of compassion in a bustling, often impersonal city. But the true magic of the open door lay in the people it brought together. There was the elderly man who came every morning to enjoy a coffee and chat with whoever shared his table. There was the young woman who, after receiving a free meal, offered to volunteer and now helped run the cafe during its busiest hours. And there was the former homeless man who started as a regular visitor and now worked in the kitchen, determined to pay forward the kindness he had received. The cafe's impact wasn't just confined to its walls. Inspired by Emma's mission, others in the community began small acts of kindness in their own lives. Some started organizing food drives, while others set up community gardens to support local families. The ripple effect of generosity was undeniable, and Emma often found herself overwhelmed with gratitude. Alex, true to his nature, remained a quiet presence in the background. He visited the cafe regularly, sometimes blending in with the crowd, and other times helping Emma with tasks like restocking supplies or brainstorming new ideas. His respect for her deepened with every passing day, as he watched her transform not just the cafe, but the lives of those around her. One evening, as the last customer left and Emma began to close up, Alex lingered by the counter. You've built something incredible, he said, his voice filled with pride. Emma looked up from wiping the countertop and smiled. I couldn't have done it without you. He shook his head. This was all you, Emma. I just gave you the means. You brought it to life. She paused, studying him. Why did you help me, Alex? Really? It's not just about the boy I helped that night, is it? Alex hesitated, his usual composed demeanor softening. When I saw you that night, it wasn't just your kindness that struck me. It was your resilience, your ability to give even when you had so little. It reminded me of someone I lost, someone who believed in helping others the way you do. Emma's heart ached at the raw emotion in his voice. Who was she? My mother, Alex admitted, his gaze distant. She ran a small community center when I was a kid. It wasn't much, but she gave everything she had to help people. After she passed, I threw myself into building my company, but I always felt like I lost a part of her along the way. When I saw you that night, it was like I got a glimpse of her again. Emma reached out, placing a hand on his. She'd be proud of you, Alex, not just for what you've achieved, but for the way you've helped me and so many others. For a moment, they sat in silence, the weight of Alex's confession hanging between them. Years later, the open door had grown beyond Emma's wildest dreams. What started as a single cafe had blossomed into a network of community cafes across the city, each one modeled after her original vision. Emma remained at the heart of it all, refusing to let success change her humble approach. She still greeted customers with a warm smile, still served meals with her own hands, and still made time to listen to anyone who needed a kind ear. Alex had become more than just her silent partner. Their shared journey had brought them closer, their bond deepening into something neither of them had anticipated. Though they were careful to keep their relationship professional at first, the connection between them eventually grew too strong to ignore. One evening, as they walked through the park after a community event, Alex turned to Emma. "Do you ever think about how one act of kindness brought us here?" She smiled, the memories of that rainy night flooding her mind. Every day, it's amazing how much can change from something so small. Alex stopped, taking her hands in his. "You've changed my life, Emma. You've reminded me what really matters. I don't just admire you, I care about you, more than I can put into words." Emma's breath hitched as she looked into his eyes, the sincerity in his voice leaving no room for doubt. "I care about you too, Alex," she whispered. Their relationship became a natural extension of the partnership they had built. Together, they continued to expand the open door, channeling their shared passion for helping others into every decision they made. In the years that followed, Emma and Alex's story inspired countless others. Their legacy of compassion reached far beyond their city, sparking a global movement of kindness. And through it all, Emma never forgot the lesson she had learned that night at the diner, that even the smallest act of kindness has the power to transform lives, starting with her own. As she stood in front of the bustling cafe, watching customers laugh and share meals, Emma felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Beside her, Alex slipped his hand into hers, his presence a constant reminder of the incredible journey they had shared. Together, they had turned one moment of generosity into a lifetime of hope, proving that kindness truly was the most powerful gift of all. As Emma looked out the window of the open door, watching the bustling crowd fill the cafe with laughter and warmth, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. What had begun as a simple act of kindness on a rainy evening had grown into a movement that touched countless lives. Standing beside her, Alex squeezed her hand gently, his silent support as steady as ever. Their journey together had been unexpected, but it had brought them both a sense of purpose they hadn't realized they were searching for. "The world doesn't change with grand gestures," Emma said softly, her voice thoughtful. "It changes with small moments, moments when people choose to care." Alex smiled, his eyes filled with admiration. "And you've shown us all how powerful those moments can be." Together, they had created not just a cafe, but a legacy that proved kindness could break barriers, heal wounds, and build bridges between even the most unlikely people. And as Emma stood in the heart of the dream she had worked so hard to build, she knew with certainty that the greatest gifts in life weren't material. They were the connections we formed, the lives we touched, and the hope we inspired in others. In the end, it wasn't about the cafe, the movement, or even the love story that had unfolded. It was about the simple truth Emma had always known. Kindness has the power to change everything. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear Emma's incredible journey and for being part of this story of kindness and hope. We hope it inspired you as much as it inspired us to share it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another heartwarming tale. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that touch lives and spread positivity. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let us know what part of Emma's journey moved you the most. And remember, every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change someone's world. Thank you again, and we'll see you in the next video.